sure you're wearing your lab coat, gloves, and goggles because this is a trace analysis, so we don't want any contamination at all.
This is the instructions for how to set up the latchet. Our first step is organizing our manifolds, which we have the total phosphorus manifold we're using in the front here, and we clamp down the tubing that we're going to use for that. So taking out the first clamp, we're looking for the purple line here, and that's connected to our DI water in the back. So I will end up putting one of these lines that's hanging. It's labeled, it's the purple line, it's gonna go straight in. But first, to clamp it down, there's a notch on the purple part here that's gonna slide into the top and clip onto that little notch there. It'll be tight and you'll pull it between both ends and notch it on the other side as well. Organization of this, you need to make sure that the tubing that's connected, you can follow the tube, trace it all the way, it'll be in your DI, trace it to the one side on the left here. The action of the pump is gonna be pulling it through, and we want the water to be sent over onto our well over here. So I've flipped this so far and organized it so that the tube part that's connected to the DI water is on the left, and the right is gonna be sending it over onto the well plate. You need to click it in. You hear a little click sound like that, and that one's tightened. If you need to tighten it more, you can pull up this little tab that ratchets it and makes it more taut so that the water can pull through faster. So the first step is that purple.
Turn on the power strip here, but as soon as you turn it on, you're gonna come over here and listen for the clicks, and you'll watch the auto sampler settle right over this rinse well. Going to power on the latchet right now, and we're gonna wait for the clicks. Now. So now we're going to follow the purple line all the way through, and we placed it back here, and we're going to place it in the DI water all the way down into the water. And then make sure you put the cap back on so there aren't any contaminants that get in. Normal run to start up the pump. And you can start to slowly see the water move through the purple line.
The rinse well is filling up through the back. It's gonna begin to fill this tube here, and then we'll see a bubble forming out of the top, and that's where the auto sampler resides between each sample. So it's making its way up to the surface now, and it'll begin to overflow outside into our drainage basin. The water is coming out of the top and dripping down the side. And we're going to place them into our DI water. So we're going to pull the cover off. So placing all three in. And then when we're ratcheting, we can kind of play with the ratchets to make sure that the water is going up the tubes. At the moment we have them pretty ratcheted up, but you can watch the water get pulled through. So you can look at each tube and watch as it gets pulled through here. As you can see here, you can see the air bubbles slowly moving through. And you'll begin to notice dripping out of the tubes here. Our first tube is going to release some water in a minute once our rinse water has passed through the system. So you'll begin to watch it travel up the tube, and it'll start dripping steadily out into our waste beaker. This is just deionized water right now. So all of this will go down the drain before we start using actual chemicals to reduce the amount of waste that we generate. just to check that the system is working correctly, we're going to lift all of our lines out of our DI water and then put them back in again after we get some airflow through there, just to double check that the system is running smoothly, and then again watching for the water traveling up the tube and running through our entire Lachat system all the way until it gets to the waste. So there should be an air bubble break in each of these tubes. So we've poured all our samples and filled up all our test tubes, and we're corresponding that sample 1 goes into slot 1. It's labeled wrong on here, but we're pretending for the sake of the Lachat run. And 2 and 3 and so on. We have 16 samples being run today. We also have a dye test that will happen at the end. The dye is over here at the far side, so we'll send the auto sampler to that zone once we're ready to run the dye test after loading the tray.
Go into Run, import worksheet data, and now we're going to go find our tray sheet, which might be in tray sheets, I hope. Right there. And it should just throw in everything that we had in there. Now the reason that it's saying that some of these are calibration standards is because that's just what was there, and we have to change those. So we're going to remove that calibration from there, and we're going to put it on these like that. Get any smudges on these shiny sides, because that's where the light's shining through.
I don't see any more.
I don't see any more in there either. But we did see them. Buggers. So here's your 0 part per billion standard, right? It's essentially going to look like your blanks too. It should look like your blanks. You see this little dip and wave here? This is very characteristic of our phosphorus peaks when they are basically 0. And what you're seeing here is just a little bit of a matrix effect from the digestion solution. So this right here is why we digest all of our standards the same way that we digest our samples, because we know there's a little matrix effect from the digestion. So we want to make sure that that matrix effect is happening for our standards in the same way that it happens for our samples, for the same way it happens for our blanks and all the other things that we run. So that is totally normal right there. That's nothing to be concerned about. So those are your results. Lines come out, go in the DI water, and then we're gonna export this report for you. So that is going to be under Tools and Custom Report. And there they are. There are your results.